What's going on, everybody? It's time for episode 2. Kind of drug my feet for a little while. I had a busy week last week with the board meeting and such. I'm going to try and make a quick one. Hope you all had fun that attended the haunted house this weekend. It was a blast. I had a really good time. I'm going to talk about 3 things really quickly, and I'm going to share my screen in order to do it. So I want to start by talking about this crew. We all probably don't recognize these, at least those that were born after 1990. Those that were born before then might know something about it. Of course, many of us probably recognize this name, Krista McAuliffe. This is the crew from the Space Shuttle Challenger that blew up, and it was a big national disaster. And I wanted to share a little bit of the background and story about that I didn't really know a lot of details on until recently. And actually, Wikipedia has some pretty good information on it. So, to overly summarize what occurred, they launched when it was too cold. There were some, specifically an O-ring, this little ring that seals 2 containers together, failed. And it was a disaster. But there was a lot of communication ahead of time that should have prevented this from occurring. But people dismissed it, and it occurred. I just wanted to read a couple things out of this. So Thiokol was the company who created, were the makers of the O-ring, and they had put out the recommendations that this particular ring not be used in temperatures lower than 40 degrees. Now, the day of the flight, January 28th, the day of the launch, it was -1 Celsius or 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I wanted to read a couple interesting quotes. So a lot of information went out from Thiokol ahead of time. And in fact, this gentleman, Bob Ebling, in October of 1985, sent out a memo. I guess there was an email in 1985, but he sent out a memo titled "Help!" just to try and bring attention to this. Along with other things in this, he says, "We're only qualified to 40 degrees, referring to the function of the O-rings and the devices provided the space shuttle. We're only qualified to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. What business does anyone even have thinking about 18 degrees? We're in no man's land." So, I'll be there in a sec.
Oh, that's going to help you on that meeting.
No. Sorry. I got a meeting I got to run to here in just a sec. So this man clearly says that we're in no man's land. This is totally against recommendations. We should not be doing this. And there was further discussion, and this was brought up again and again, that this is what they call the critically one component, and that there was no backup if both the primary and secondary rings failed. And if it's labeled a critically one component, then you can't go outside the design parameters. Here's what it says. I want to read one more quote. Thiokol management initially supported its engineers' recommendation to postpone the launch, but NASA staff opposed a delay. During the conference call, Hardy told Thiokol, "I'm appalled." Hardy with NASA. I'm appalled by your recommendation. My God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April?" NASA believed that Thiokol's hastily prepared presentation's quality was too poor to support such a statement on flight safety. One argument by NASA personnel contesting Thiokol's concerns was that the primary O-ring failed, the secondary O-ring would still seal. This was unproven and was in any case an argument that did not apply to critically one component. Anyway, lots more information on that, but it's a really sad example that they knew that there was failure, and despite efforts to escalate, ultimately somebody made the decision to override what they heard and what they knew to be a safety concern. In healthcare, we deal with this all the time, right? We deal with dangerous medications if prescribed in doses that are inappropriate. We are to some degree in control of our patients' health and well-being. And what I wanted to suggest was that everyone should feel involved in that. I've had several folks, which I very much appreciate, bring to my attention concerns about patient safety or what they know to not be good care. They felt comfortable escalating something. I've had people in our medical records department. I've had schedulers. I've had medical assistants. And I've had providers who it's been challenging maybe to come to me about a peer that they feel is not making a wise decision about a patient's care. We should all feel an obligation to bring any concerns about the quality of care that we're providing to leadership. I promise that you'll be listened to and that we'll do everything we can to resolve it. Please have a voice. Please don't feel uncomfortable or feeling like you're some kind of tattletale. That's just a word that's made up to make you feel guilty for doing the right thing. So I just wanted to touch base on that. If you're interested in more about it, please check out the Wikipedia site on Space Shuttle Challenger. Also of note, there is a Challenger Peak in Colorado that was named after that disaster and that Space Shuttle mission. Two other things really quickly. One was just a brief market update. A brief market update. I was just reading an article about what CVS and Walgreens are doing. I think, as was previously mentioned, CVS is acquiring Aetna. I think this is a big deal. Also big in the market is Walgreens has formed relationships with Humana and with LabCorp. This is a big movement in the marketplace, and as was previously mentioned, FANG, as it's referred to, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, not all of those, but many of those feel like they know a lot about consumers and are getting into healthcare because they feel like they can make an impact on the industry. So there are some really big players making some big strides in the market, and it will impact us ultimately. But wanted to keep you a little bit in the loop as to what's going on. Last thing, I want to pull up my phone and pull up something from my wife. So my wife has a little inspirational quote on the board for the kids, but I always appreciate it myself too. And here's the quote this week. Might be backwards for you, but it simply states, try, try, try. I found it simple yet inspirational. Never give up, keep trying, never stop trying. And that's all I got for you today. Thanks. See ya.